When they had the earthquake in San Francisco back in 1906, they said that old Mother Nature was up to her old tricks. That's the story that went around, but here's the real lowdown.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Gilda, a 1946 noir film. Another film that I'm looking at in, not so much looking at, but watching for classical Hollywood cinema, a module in my university course. So, what's Gilda like? Well, for starters, it's sort of supposed to be a noir film, but apart from some guys running a sort of illegal casino and one of those guys having a bit more of a criminal deals, I suppose. I think they're criminal. At least he certainly commits murder and then runs away for a bit. Besides that, it's not really that much noir, I guess. It's sort of a romantic drama in a way, I guess. I mean, maybe it's kind of a noir, but I'm not quite sure. It's not really clear. Anyway, what is Gilda about? Well, this guy, Johnny, a very forgettable name, by the way, as far as our main character is concerned. Well, actually, he's more like, he's the character that we kind of spend the most time with, but the main character is, or at least the title character. Actually, I'm not sure, who would you say is the main character? Would you say Gilda, the title character, or Johnny, the character we spend the most time with? Let's say it's Gilda and just shut up. So Johnny gets acquainted with this guy. I can't remember his name, but he gets acquainted with the guy. He starts working for him. Because Johnny's doing sort of a bit of a voiceover, and there's cuts between different scenes, but you can't quite follow some of them that well. It doesn't quite make a lot of sense earlier on. When and where are we? The film kind of relies on you to keep watching to understand. Which, yeah, that seems to be the whole point of story, but not in the whole point of where are you? When is this scene? Where is this scene taking place? When it cuts, you're supposed to directly know where you are. And whilst you could say, "Oh, we're in a casino," it's still a bit baffling. So Johnny's boss guy gets married on a very short, in terms of film time, stay away. Literally, it's the next scene. It's after the vacation. After the scene where they say, "I'm going away." Literally, the scene after the guy says, "I'm going away for a bit." The next scene is right after they've gone back. And he's married this woman called Gilda, played by Rita Hayworth, who became a star of this film, and for good reason. She is brilliant. She's probably the best thing in the movie. However, she and Johnny have had a past. What that past is made unclear. I mean, sure, they don't have to say straight away. They can keep it in the air, but it's still kind of ambiguous throughout the movie, and you still don't quite understand. I don't know if that was the point or not. I don't know if I should knock it down for that, because it might be the point, but yeah, it is a bit annoying when they're just saying stuff about each other, to each other, saying that they hate each other and sort of loving each other at the same time. They don't say what the thing went down between them. The only thing that they say is probably that Johnny walked out on Gilda, but he doesn't say why. What's the past like? I mean, that should have been part of the plot. Surely. No, instead we get boring current issues. Men are kind of attracted to Gilda, and she's falling all over them. It probably would have been better to have this Gilda going after other men, but still remaining loyal to her husband, so to speak. I mean, she's just going out having fun for a night or two with these other guys. But it probably would have been interesting to do that alongside trying to find out what went down between her and Johnny, especially now that he's the one who's trying to make sure she gets back home safely. There is really not that much actually happening with this concept. It's a concept that should have been explored, but it's not. It's being ignored mostly. And to be honest, because of this, there isn't really much happening. That stuff actually does start happening about 39 minutes in, when this guy, I guess, tries to assassinate the boss guy and then commits suicide. Brief bit of excitement, but it'll do. Then these German guys keep coming around, pestering the boss guy. Eventually, the boss guy kills one of them and pretends to escape the country, and then pretends to commit suicide whilst fleeing the country. Anyway, Johnny takes over running the casino and the cartel, not a drug cartel or an armed cartel, a business cartel, I think. Again, it's not made specifically clear. I think it's supposed to be businesses, but like I said, not specifically clear. And Johnny decides to marry Gilda because she's a holder in the rights. I think because she was the wife. But despite Gilda's attempts to rekindle their romance, the marriage isn't very happy. And there's quite a bit of problems, which ends up with Gilda again going with other men for a bit, and then running away, but then being brought back. And there's a bit of a fight. By the way, the plot stops twice: once when she's run away, and once when she's gotten back, where we stop the film for a song and dance sequence with her. It's not even Rita Hayworth singing these songs. The only song that Rita Hayworth herself sung was when she was playing the guitar earlier on. Someone else is singing these songs. So the plot just stops for Gilda to sing some songs to some people. And then eventually she decides to leave, but Johnny decides to go with her. I guess he's come over to the idea, and the original husband comes back. He's prepared to kill Johnny. Now he's prepared to kill Gilda because he knows that they kind of love each other. However, the likable bathroom cleaner guy kills not Johnny, the other guy, with his own weapon. And this policeman guy who's been watching over Johnny lets them all go and says that he's already been considered dead. Why worry? More or less along those lines. And he's been investigating the other guy's shady business, which Johnny lets him, so he can go with Gilda. I will say the film does have an ending. I think we can assume that Johnny and Gilda went back to New York, or maybe Gilda stayed with him and they got their romance back on track. So there is kind of an ending here in a way. At least they kind of wrap up the story with the ex-boss, ex-husband coming back. They wrap up that story, and then they finish it off after a few dialogue scenes. But some of these dialogue scenes are just so dull and so uninteresting, and they don't do that much. Especially in the bit before the husband slash the former boss supposedly dies, and then when Johnny takes over, it's sort of getting a bit more interesting because Gilda's was a femme fatale. No doubt, she's a femme fatale. And she's clearly written that way in the earlier scenes. However, when Johnny's her husband, she's kind of more of a caged animal. Well, definitely caged at least. And then when she tries running away, she feels like a trapped woman. I will say that this does kind of make her look like a bit of a weak character in comparison to her earlier self. But she's still a pretty good character all the way through. I also say Johnny's pretty good. He also gets development, going from a thug to the leader of this casino. And it's nice that we see his character progress. It is kind of a bit of a shame that he's the one we're focusing on rather than Gilda, because Gilda is the title character. She's supposed to be the main character, but it's Johnny's story. This could be down to 40's writing, how we're following the main male character and his relationship with the main female character, but still feels a bit odd that it's supposed to be Gilda's story, but it's coming from the perspective of Johnny for most of the film. That being said, I think the guy who plays him, I think it's Glenn Ford, does well. I think the other characters are also very good for what they are. It's just the story that they're placed in, and especially parts of the story, just aren't that interesting. It does have some good, interesting moments. The supposed death of the ex-boss sort of spices things up a little bit. And there seems to be more going on in the second half. that actually kind of moves the story along. But quite a lot of the first hour is a bit dull. It is pretty dull for quite a lot of it. The cinematography is done well. Editing, actually, in the first, like I said, in the first couple of transitions between scenes, it doesn't really isn't really made a lot of not really made that clear that well. I think the voiceover has to help you in some places, like time jumping, for example. It's just, so I'm not sure what it is. I just don't think the editing works that well earlier on. Later on, it works pretty good. But earlier on, when transitioning from scenes, it wasn't very good. On the whole, Gilda, the idea sounds good, but it doesn't quite succeed in actually telling it all that much. And in execution, the cinematography, whilst looking pretty great, the editing not that much, or at least not when transitioning from scenes to scene earlier on in the film, at the very least. And whilst the actors and characters are pretty good, the story that they are in just doesn't quite work. Maybe if we got to explore some of the Gilda-Johnny relationship that happened before the events of the start of the film, then or at least just, even if it's just in dialogue, then maybe it would be a bit more interesting, and maybe it would make their relationship later on and in fact, the relationship earlier on, come to mention it, even more interesting and even more enjoyable. But as it is, it's not that great. So I'm going to be giving Gilda a 7 out of 10.
You can put the blame on me, boy. Put the blame on me.
I said 7 because the actors do a great job and their characters are actually pretty good. It's just that there's a bit of a story problem with them. Though there is some good character development, I think there could have been even more, and I think the story could have allowed even more. Just give it itself another 10 minutes, and you could have a few more lines of dialogue about the relationship. That would have been enough. I also put it above a 7 because even though there were bits where I wasn't so personally enjoyed, I think there are qualities of this film that are good. So that's why it was a 7 rather than a 6, like King Kong 33 or Top Hat. However, out of the 6 films so far, this one is certainly not top 3 material. And I doubt it'll enter the top 4 after the 8 films are finished. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching. The next classical Hollywood cinema film that I'll be watching will be Rebel Without a Cause, which may also be the next review on this channel. Anyway, we'll see. After that will probably be Quantum of Solace, the next Bond film. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
That's the story that went around, but here's the real lowdown. Put the blame on me, boy. Put the blame on me. Mame did a dance called the Hitchy Coo. That's the thing that slew my groove. Put the blame on me, boys. Put the blame on me.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Oh, I'm running the sketch as well. Oh, sorry, that was for Shaun the Sheep. Anyway, so, Gilda. Some of the boringest stuff. It should have been a concept that should have been explored, but instead it's kind of shadowed. But despite attempts to reform their romance, it doesn't. But despite attempts, mainly by Gilda, to rekindle their romance, does the romance? But fuck's sake. However, the likable waiter support, and the police say, "Oh, and the police officer, who's kind of been this watcher character over Johnny, just says, "Oh, he's already dead." But sadly, quite a lot of these dialogue scenes, there's some of the most boringest. But some, in the end, she's kind of. I think some of the other characters. I think the characters are pretty good for them. What they've got to have. So on the whole, Gil, I passed it at 7 because the acting, it's just that there isn't a huge amount of. It's just that the story doesn't really allow. Though I think character development does happen, though there is some good development. So yeah, I also put it about above us.